The question is cremation sinful? This is something that comes up from time to time. I've heard it especially in Reform circles, because the concern is raised, and a valid one, I think, that burial is the norm that we see, not just in the New Testament, that has been practiced by the church for generations, even centuries and millennia. The reason for that is because of the hope of the resurrection. Our understanding, and rightly so, is that at the last day, Christ will return in final judgment and glory, and there will be a bodily resurrection of those who have been in Christ, who have fallen asleep in Christ, that is, those who have died. So, the practice has been, we bury the body in the ground as a seed, and look forward to the resurrection when God will raise them up at the last day. And that is largely why burial has been preferred. Also, there is the fact that cremation has been associated with pagan practices. Burning of the body with regard to certain pagan understandings. Sometimes people will put the ashes of relatives in an urn and set them in some sort of a shrine in their houses, and this is certainly something that we don't want to practice in that regard. But then you ask the question, would then our cremation always be sinful? How about when we don't have the opportunity to bury people in other situations, like a ship that's lost at sea in a warfare, or someone who dies in a fire, or those kinds of things? And we don't believe that the person should not have been on the ship necessarily, or that the firefighter or the people in the building who have died were somehow doing something wrong if their bodies are destroyed. I do think it is the general principle is that burial is the norm, but the cremation doesn't necessarily have to be a sin as long as you do not associate it with pagan practices, and one can bury the ashes of a relative in the ground as a seed in as much as one can bury a body. And I do think that we all believe that our God is big enough and powerful enough to raise in the resurrection someone who has been burned up, who has rotted at sea, or anything else. And after all, a body that is buried after it does decompose, as we do understand these days. So is it outright a sin? I don't believe so. Can it be sin? Certainly yes. But we need to go into that matter, as with anything else, with Christian presuppositions, trusting in what God himself has said, and we need to make sure that we are not associating it with any kind of pagan practice.